You're still doing it, aren't you? Still crafting the perfect sentence in your head. Still rehearsing your defense while they sit there with their arms crossed. Already convicted you before you even opened your mouth. People. Still believing that if you just explain it right this time, they'll finally understand. They'll finally see you. They'll finally nod and say, "Oh, I get it now." They won't. And somewhere deep in your chest, beneath the ribs and the scar tissue, you already know that. You've always known that. But you kept explaining anyway, because silence felt like surrender. The chips felt like guilt. Silence felt like you were admitting they were right about you. So you spoke. You justified. You defended. You laid your truth out on the table like a dissection, hoping they'd lean in close enough to see the anatomy of your intentions. But they never did. They never wanted to, because people don't ask you to explain yourself because they're confused. They ask you to explain yourself because they've already decided who you are. And they want to watch you squirm while you try to prove them wrong. People. Let me tell you something they don't want you to know. Something that lives in the shadows of every courtroom, every family dinner, every workplace interrogation where you're made to justify your existence. The explanation was never for clarity. It was for control. When they demand you explain yourself, what they're really demanding is that you submit, that you lower your head, that you accept their frame, people, their narrative, their version of reality, where you are always the suspect and they are always the judge. And every word you speak in your defense is just another brick in the prison they're building around you. You think you're setting the record straight. You're not. You're teaching them how to trap you better next time. Because here's the thing about people who demand explanations. They already have their story. They've already written the ending. You're the villain. You're the selfish one. You're the one who hurt them, disappointed them, failed to meet their standards, didn't play the role they cast you in. And no amount of logic, no timeline of events, people, no PowerPoint presentation of your perspective is going to rewrite that script. They're not listening to understand. They're listening to find ammunition. Every detail you give them becomes a weapon. Every vulnerability you expose becomes a target. You think you're being honest, you're being naive, and they love that about you. They love that you still believe in fairness, that you still think truth matters. That you still operate under this ancient, childish assumption that if you're just reasonable enough, patient enough, articulate enough, they'll have no choice but to see reason. That's the beautiful lie they keep you trapped in. Bull. That's the frequency they broadcast that keeps you explaining, defending, justifying people, bleeding yourself dry, trying to win an argument that was rigged from the start. Meanwhile, they sleep fine. They're not up at 3 in the morning, replaying the conversation, thinking of what they should have said. They're not haunted by the need to be understood. They said their piece, believed their own narrative, and moved on, because they don't care about the truth. They care about being right. And in their world, being right just means being loud enough, stubborn enough, shameless enough to never question their own story. You're playing chess, they're playing checkers, and they're winning because you keep following rules that don't exist. So what happens when you stop? What happens when someone demands an explanation and you just don't give one? When you look them in the eye and let the silence stretch like a chasm between you. When you refuse to dance, refuse to perform, refuse to audition for their forgiveness, they panic. Because silence is not what they expected. Silence is not part of the script. They came armed with rebuttals, ready to dismiss everything you say, prepared to twist your words into confessions, but you're not saying anything. You're just standing there, unshaken, unmoved, and suddenly the power dynamic shifts. Suddenly, they're the ones scrambling. They're the ones feeling uncomfortable. They're the ones who have to fill the void. And when they do, when they start talking to fill your silence, that's when you see it. The truth beneath the accusation. The insecurity beneath the judgment. The fear beneath the rage. They're not angry at what you did. They're angry at what you represent. Freedom. Detachment. The audacity to exist outside their control. The refusal to bow. And that terrifies them more than any crime you could have committed. You see, most people are chained to the opinions of others. They live and die by external validation. They need to be liked, approved of, understood. They'll contort themselves into shapes that don't fit just to avoid being misunderstood. These civilized people, they'll apologize for things they didn't do. They'll explain away their own reality just to keep the peace. Because for them, conflict is unbearable. Being seen as the bad guy is a fate worse than death. So they explain, they justify, they beg to be seen in the right light. And in doing so, they hand over their power like a hostage negotiating with their own captor. But you're different now. You've walked through the fire. You've been betrayed, abandoned, misunderstood so many times that the fear of it lost its teeth. You've sat alone in rooms where your name was dragged through the mud, and you weren't there to defend it. People, you've been the villain in stories you didn't even know were being told. And somewhere along the way, you realized something the sheep never will. Other people's opinions of you are none of your business. Their story about you belongs to them. It's their fiction, their fantasy, their coping mechanism. And you don't owe them a rewrite. This is what they never taught you. That letting people be wrong about you is one of the most powerful things you can do, because it means you're no longer enslaved to their perception. You're no longer performing for an audience that will never applaud these civilized people. You're no longer wasting your finite energy trying to convince people who have already made up their minds. You're free. And freedom, real freedom, looks like apathy to those who are still in chains. They'll call you cold. They'll say you've changed. They'll tell you you're running away, shutting down, being defensive by not defending yourself. And that's the beautiful irony. The moment you stop explaining is the moment they accuse you of the very thing they've been doing all along. Projection. Because they can't fathom a version of you that doesn't need their approval. They can't compute a reality where you're not desperate to correct their narrative. So they'll frame your silence as arrogance, your peace as avoidance, your boundaries as cruelty. Let them twist it. Let them be wrong. Because every word they speak in judgment says more about them than it ever could about you. You know what's funny? The people who demand the most explanations are the ones who never gave you any. They disappeared without a word. They betrayed you without a reason. They made decisions that shattered you and never once felt the need to justify it. But you're expected to write a thesis defense for every boundary you set, every decision you make, every time you choose yourself over their comfort. The double standard is the point. The exhaustion is the point. They want you tired. They want you second guessing. They want you so tangled up in defending yourself that you forget to ask the only question that matters. Why do I owe them anything? You don't. You don't owe your history to people who weren't there. These civilized people, you don't owe your reasoning to people who wouldn't understand it anyway. You don't owe your vulnerability to those who've already weaponized it. You don't owe your time, your energy, your emotional labor to anyone who approaches you with a closed fist instead of an open hand. These civilized people, the moment you accept that, the moment you internalize it down to your bones, you become untouchable. Not because you're heartless, but because you've learned to protect the heart you have left. There's an ancient weight to silence, a gravity. When you stop filling the air with explanations, justifications, defenses, people have to sit with themselves. They have to confront the void. And most people can't handle that. Most people need noise. They need drama. They need someone to react so they can feel validated in their accusations. But when you don't react, when you let their words fall into the silence, like stones into a well, never hearing them hit the bottom, that's when they realize they have no power over you. That's when they realize the game is over. And some of them will hate you for it. They'll say you're emotionless, that you don't care, that you've become a ghost of who you used to be. And they're right. You are a ghost, but not in the way they think. These civilized people, you're the ghost of the person who used to break themselves, trying to be understood by people who were never listening. You're the ghost of the version of you that believed fairness existed, that believed good intentions mattered, that believed the truth would set you free. That version of you died, and what rose from the ashes doesn't explain, doesn't justify, doesn't perform. You just are. And that's the nightmare they can't wake up from. A version of you that doesn't need them, doesn't fear them, doesn't flinch when they try to manipulate you with guilt, shame, or the silent treatment. You've already lived through the worst thing they could do. Being misunderstood, that's Tuesday. Being the villain in someone else's story, that's breakfast. You've been shattered so many times you've learned to exist as shards. Beautiful, sharp people, dangerous to anyone who tries to pick you up without care. So let them be wrong. Let them craft their narratives. Let them tell their version where you're the monster, the coward, the one who gave up. Let them gather around that story like a campfire, warming themselves with the fiction that they're the victim and you're the villain. Because while they're busy talking about you, you're busy becoming someone they'll never understand. Someone who doesn't need to be right. Someone who doesn't need to win. These civilized people, someone who's learned that the only opinion that matters is the one you have of yourself when you look in the mirror at 3 a.m. and the masks are off. That's the frequency they can't hear. That's the language they don't speak. Self, possession, autonomy. The quiet confidence of someone who's been to hell and came back not with answers, but with acceptance. Acceptance that some people will never get it. Some people will never see you. Some people will die on the hill of their own delusion about who you are. And that's their prison, not yours. You're free the moment you stop trying to unlock their chains with explanations they'll never accept. You're free the moment you realize their locked door was never your responsibility to open. People. You're free the moment you walk away from the interrogation room and refuse to return. No matter how many times they summon you back, this is what they fear most. Not your anger, not your words, your indifference, your ability to let them be wrong and not lose sleep over it. People. Because indifference is the opposite of love, and it's also the opposite of hate. It's the void. It's the place where their hooks can't reach. It's the frequency where their voices fade to static. And when you operate from that place, you become immune to their games. These civilized people, you become a fortress they can't siege because you're not defending anything anymore. You're just existing, unapologetically, without explanation. And that's the final lesson the Abyss teaches. The people who deserve your truth won't demand it. They'll earn it. They'll approach you with curiosity, not accusation, with openness, not judgment. They'll give you space to be human, to be flawed, to be complex. And when you speak to those people, it won't feel like a defense. It'll feel like a conversation. Like two people meeting in the middle, instead of one person begging to be seen. But everyone else, people, the ones who approach you with their minds already made up, the ones who cross, examine you like you're on trial for existing, the ones who demand you defend your boundaries, your choices, your peace. Let them be wrong. Let them misunderstand. Let them tell their story. You don't owe them a rewrite. You don't owe them a sequel. You don't owe them anything. You've explained yourself enough for lifetimes to people who never deserved the explanation in the first place. And all it got you was exhausted. All it got you was misunderstood anyway. So what's the point? There isn't one. The point is silence. The point is walking away. The point is understanding that your truth is not a courtroom exhibit. It's a private religion, and not everyone gets access to your temple. So stop explaining yourself. Let them be wrong. And walk into the life you're building with the energy you used to waste trying to convince people who were never on your side to begin with. People. That's the power they'll never take from you. The power to exist without their permission, without their understanding, without their approval. And that's the power that will set you free.